She said my daughter's wheelchair ramp made the neighborhood look ugly, and within minutes my little girl was screaming while I stood there helpless. But what that woman didn't know, the moment she touched that ramp, she changed everything. By the end of this story, she'd lose everything she used to destroy us. The driveway was quiet that morning, until the sound of metal scraping against concrete broke the calm. Emma, a bright 9-year-old in her wheelchair, had just rolled down the new access ramp her father built over the weekend. She was smiling, proud that she could finally reach the sidewalk on her own. That's when Margaret, the HOA president, stormed across the lawn. Clipboard in hand, jaw tight, eyes sharp with disapproval. "Mr. Walker," she barked, "this ramp violates community guidelines. It must come down immediately." Emma's father, Daniel, looked up from the porch, still in his uniform pants, coffee in hand. "It's not violating anything," he said calmly. "It's just a ramp so my daughter can leave the house safely." Margaret didn't even look at Emma. "Rules are rules," she snapped. "You people think sympathy is an excuse to break them." Emma shrank back, gripping her wheels. Daniel's tone hardened. "She's 9 years old, ma'am. You might want to watch how you talk to her." Margaret stepped closer, hands gripping the ramp rail as if ownership alone could erase it. Her anger was loud, sharp, until Emma startled, and her chair rolled slightly forward, bumping against Margaret's knee. It wasn't violent, but the moment felt like an explosion. Margaret jerked the rail so hard it wobbled, startling Emma into tears. Daniel dropped his cup, his voice rising. "That's enough." The neighborhood fell silent. Curtains shifted. Phones appeared at windows. Margaret, realizing she had gone too far, smoothed her blouse and turned coldly. "Expect a fine," she hissed. "You've brought this on yourself." That afternoon, Daniel found a formal violation notice taped to his door. Unauthorized modification to property, subject to daily fines. He was a police officer used to rules, but this was different. This was personal. For weeks, letters arrived, penalties increasing, legal threats mounting. He attended every HOA meeting, calm but firm, asking for understanding. Each time, Margaret silenced him with, "We sympathize, but precedent must be protected." Emma stopped going outside. The ramp stayed, but her laughter didn't. Daniel recorded every exchange, every threat, every fine. Then, one afternoon, a certified letter arrived. Not for the ramp, but for Daniel himself. A complaint had been filed with the police department accusing him of harassment and misconduct toward a community board member. He froze. Margaret's brother, he soon learned, sat on the city council. Within a week, Daniel was placed on administrative leave. His badge and gun were taken pending review. The man who protected others his whole career suddenly couldn't protect his own daughter. While Daniel faced hearings and interviews, the HOA doubled down. They filed a civil order demanding removal of the ramp for neighborhood uniformity. Daniel refused. "My daughter needs that ramp. You'll have to take me to court." So they did. At the courthouse, Margaret sat with her lawyer, confident and composed. Daniel stood alone, a folder of photographs in his hands. Emma smiling on her wheelchair, painting on the porch, rolling up and down the ramp for therapy. When the judge asked for evidence of violation, Daniel spoke clearly. "This ramp wasn't built for show," he said. "It was built because a drunk driver shattered my daughter's spine 3 years ago. If this community calls that an eyesore, maybe the problem isn't the ramp." The room went silent. Margaret's lawyer objected, citing bylaws and property uniformity clauses. But the judge leaned forward. "This isn't about uniformity," she said. "This is about decency." Ruling deferred. But something shifted that day. The story didn't end there. 2 days later, a neighbor sent Daniel security footage, the moment of the confrontation. It showed Margaret's aggressive behavior, her temper, the way she had rattled the ramp and frightened the child. Daniel didn't want revenge. He wanted truth. He sent the video to Internal Affairs, the HOA board, and the local news. Within 24 hours, it was everywhere. Public outrage exploded. Parents, advocates, and veterans spoke out. Hashtags appeared overnight. Justice for Emma and ramp rights. Under pressure, the city reinstated Daniel. Margaret resigned from the HOA for personal reasons, but Daniel wasn't done. He used his reinstatement not for payback, but for purpose. He began working with local lawmakers to draft Emma's Law, a rule that prohibited HOAs from restricting accessibility modifications on private property. Months later, the same driveway that had once been a battlefield was quiet again. Emma sat at her easel on the porch, painting the sunset, a swirl of orange and gold across the same sky that had once watched her cry. Daniel watched from the steps, his badge back on his chest, pride softening his face. The ramp gleamed under the evening light. He didn't need words to know what it meant anymore. That ramp wasn't just a path to the sidewalk, it was a path to freedom, and somewhere, in a city office, a new line was added to local housing law. No association may deny or restrict the construction of accessibility accommodations for residents with disabilities. They called it Emma's Law. Margaret moved away quietly. Daniel never mentioned her again. But every time he watched his daughter roll down that ramp, her laughter echoing through the neighborhood that once tried to silence her, he knew one thing for certain. They tried to take her access away. Instead, they gave her a legacy. "Tomorrow will be better," Emma had said once, and for the first time, Daniel truly believed it.